I love it. I love it. I love it. Look at this. This is the greatest thing I've ever seen.
Hey, I'm not surprised.
Hey, what's poppin', my homies? What's good? We're back again for another full card breakdown and predictions video. Let's go. This one's gonna be Ketlen Vieira taking on Holm, which isn't the greatest main event. It's not the greatest UFC card you've ever seen. We do this every week though. We've got to show up. Let's go. Alright, just before we get into the breakdown, these are going to be the MoneyCity comments from the last UFC card. Alright, the first comment's going to be hashtag MoneyCity, Candelario and Araujo from Ville. Now obviously you were sweating early on in the Araujo fight, but it's still money. Alright, check this one out. Victor J. D. Jesus, Parlay Chikagian by decision, and Grant by finish. That's money. That's deep into MoneyCity. Fair play. Alright, we've got Jake, Ketlen moneyline, Verna and Hill over 2.5, Lee and Araujo over 2.5 at 13 units. Oh my goodness. I mean, that's money. At 13 units. That's money. Okay. Alright, my homies. Let's break down these fights, make predictions, try to find the right bets. Let's go. Alright, guys. Starting off this card, we've got Elise Reed taking on Sam Hughes. Now, I'm going to be honest, guys. If Sam Hughes or Elise Reed didn't win their last fight, I'd probably start this breakdown by saying, you know, these girls are kind of trash cans. You don't want to bet this fight. However, Elise Reed and Sam Hughes both won their last fight, so you've got to give some credit. And they were big underdogs, you know, big underdogs in those fights, and they done what they needed to do. They got the win. Now, guys, analysing what Sam Hughes done to Estela Nunes, you know, this girl's a little pit bull. She got absolutely dusted in round 1, but round 2 starts and she's still pressing forward, you know, she's still trying to get that takedown. And you kind of have to admire that type of determination, that type of heart. Now, on the flip side, Elise Reed didn't have to go through that type of war to get a win against Corey McKenna. The weapon that Elise Reed used multiple times on Corey McKenna that seemed to work was the right hand. You know, that right hand over and over, it was finding the mark against Corey McKenna. So looking how this one might play out, I think the right hand of Elise Reed probably finds the mark early in this fight. But as you see with Sam Hughes, you know, the girl's not going to stop. She is going to keep pressing forward. She's going to take the damage. She wants to fight on the mat. So that's really what you've got to pick here, you know. Are you going to pick the technically better girl in Elise Reed, or are you going to pick the pitbull in Sam Hughes? It's a tough prediction to make, guys. Initially, I was leaning towards Elise Reed, but I'm going to side with Sam Hughes. I think at some point in this fight, she does get the fight to the mat and just kind of beats Elise Reed based on, you know, determination, walking forward, taking shots. Just shows that she wants to win the fight a little bit more. And of course, when you get punched in the face multiple times, you're not going to get the win based on that, but if you can slow the opponent down and then start to implement your game plan, that's really what Sam Hughes wants to do in this fight. She done that to Estela Nunes. I think she can do it against Elise Reed. Alright, moving into a matchup between Chase Hooper taking on Felipe Colares. I'm going to spark the blunt for Chase Hooper.
My father is Ben Askren. Shout out.
Well, yeah, I'm sorry, man.
Alright, let's start by saying, is Chase Hooper a good boxer? I'm going to say no to that question. Is Chase Hooper a good kicker? I'm going to say no to that question. He will try to kick you in the head, but on that attempt, he might fall to the mat. You know what I'm saying? He's not a good striker. If you look at Chase Hooper, you know, he's all about the jiu-jitsu. He wants to take you to the mat. He wants to find that submission. Now, the problem with Chase Hooper, if you look at the record, guys, against Tamer in the debut, you know, this was domination. Complete dusteration. But then you put him against Alex Caceres, who has a lot of experience in mixed martial arts, and you can see that Chase Hooper is pretty one-dimensional, you know, submission or bust. Even against Peter Barrett, you know, he was losing that whole fight until he finds the heel hook at the end of the fight. Now against Steven Peterson, who also has a lot of experience in mixed martial arts, again, it's not enough. He's one-dimensional. On the flip side, you've got Felipe Colares. You know, this guy is a madman. And even Steven Peterson's a bit of a madman too, but Steven Peterson has way more experience than Felipe Colares. What I'm thinking happens in this matchup, guys, I think Felipe Colares is going to be a madman. He's going to fire the kicks. He's going to fire the punches. He's probably going to be winning this fight right up until the point he gets submitted. It's one of those fights where you can see that Felipe Colares is going to win the strike and he's probably going to prove that he's the better mixed martial artist in this fight. But something just tells me that at some point it's going to be like a rear naked or a triangle or an armbar for Chase Hooper. So I've got to go with that feeling, guys. I think, like I said, Colares is maybe the safer bet, the safer prediction. But it might just take one moment from Chase Hooper to win this fight. Even thinking back to Domingo Pilate taking the back against Felipe for the whole of the last round. So yeah, I'm going to take Chase Hooper to at some point find that submission. Alright, moving into the next matchup, we've got Jonathan Martinez taking on Vince Morales. This is a good matchup. Now, I took Vince Morales as a nice underdog to beat Louis Smoker. He gets it done with the right hand. It was nice work. Do I believe that Vince Morales can get into the same type of range against Jonathan Martinez? Probably not. I think Vince Morales is like a low-key good fighter. You know, the boxing's pretty good. The wrestling's pretty good. But looking at this matchup from a striking perspective, I don't think he's going to have much success in that type of fight against Jonathan Martinez. And the main reason for that, I think Jonathan Martinez is a really good kicker. You know, just go back and watch Jonathan Martinez. He loves to play that distance type fight from a striking standpoint. He's a really good striker. If I had to find a way that Vince Morales would win this fight, if he did, it has to be a takedown. You have to take Jonathan Martinez to the mat to win this fight. But my prediction in this matchup is going to be Vince Morales probably strikes a little too long with Jonathan Martinez. And if that happens, Jonathan Martinez is probably going to rack up the kicks. He's probably going to outstrike Vince Morales. So that's going to be my prediction. I'm going to take Dragon Jonathan Martinez to win a striking matchup against Vince Morales. It's a good matchup, you know, but Jonathan Martinez, the kicks are too good. The movement's too good. The control of the distance is too good. I like Jonathan in this matchup. Alright guys, moving into a matchup between Omar Morales taking on Uros Medic. Now this is a good matchup because Uros Medic looks like a good prospect. Right, you see him on the Contender Series, you see him against Alon Cruz, you know, this guy looks like a good prospect. But then you see him against Jailton Turner, you know, Jailton Turner completely dusted him. I think one of the most difficult things to think about in this matchup is going to be Uros Medic hasn't left round one. Now on the flip side, Omar Morales, this guy's a good kickboxer. You see on the Contender Series against Harvey Park, you know, the calf kicks are money for Omar Morales. He debuted in the UFC at 155. And then for some reason after 2 fights at 155, he dropped down to featherweight. And then he got completely outclassed by Chikadze. Picks up a nice win against Shane Yong, but completely dominated by Jonathan Pierce. I really think this is a difficult prediction to make. The fact we haven't seen Uros Medic outside of round one, that's an unknown. Initially, I was thinking that Uros Medic might be a good play here. You know, early on against Omar Morales, it might look really good. But the fact he hasn't been outside of round one, I can't bet on a fighter that hasn't seen a round two. I can't do it. So purely on those principles, I'm going to give Omar Morales the respect and say he probably chops down Uros later in this fight. You look at Uros Medic, man, getting the round one stoppages, but what happens if that doesn't happen? And that's why I'm going to predict that Omar Morales gets the win against a pretty green fighter in Uros Medic. My prediction, Omar Morales. Alright, moving into a matchup between Parker Porter taking on Jailton Almeida. Now, one of my boys in the Discord said he can't wait for my breakdown on this fight. And he knows why too. He knows why. I'm going to say it, but we're going to spark the blunt. Guys, let's be honest, Parker Porter, pretty much Spider Pig from The Simpsons. Let's be honest, man, come on.
Spider Pig does whatever a Spider Pig does.
And if you say Parker Porter in the mirror, he will show up in your apartment and he will eat all of your food, so don't do that. No, I'm only joking, man. So this matchup, Parker Porter taking on Jailton Almeida. I'm going to predict that Jailton Almeida wins this fight. And the reason why I think he's going to beat Spider Pig, I think he just takes him to the mat and it's a wrap. It's a wrap from there. Porky Porter, you know, he's got a box. He's got to keep this fight standing, but even in a striking matchup, he probably loses this fight. My prediction, I'm going to take Jailton Almeida. Alright guys, moving into a matchup between Joseph Holmes taking on Amedovski. Oh my goodness. Now Joseph Holmes fought, who did he fight? What's his name? Jamie Pickett. Right, I took Jamie Pickett and he was an underdog in that fight. I didn't pick Jamie Pickett because Jamie Pickett's good. I just picked Jamie Pickett because, you know, what's the evidence that Joseph Holmes is good? Now, if you're trying to find some evidence that he's good, you know, he's fought some low-level competition. He has some okay jiu-jitsu. On the flip side, you've got Amedovski, who also isn't UFC caliber, let's be honest. I remember when the UFC signed this guy back in 2019 and he just got dusted in both of the matchups. You know, against Krzysztof Jotko, just controlled on the mat. He was made to look like a baby in this matchup. Against John Phillips, you know, connected to the Shadow City server real quick. And since that hookup to the Shadow City server, you know, the guy hasn't been inside the octagon. In my opinion, guys, like I said, it's not a UFC caliber matchup. I do feel like Joseph Holmes would be the prediction this time though. Against Jamie Pickett, maybe not. Against Amedovski, who's super inactive, and he's also at a size disadvantage. You know, Joseph Holmes is like 6'4". Amedovski's like 5'9", 5'10". So yeah, this time I'm going to give Joseph Holmes the chance to win this fight. I think he probably should. And the octagon name of Joseph Holmes, Ugly Man. That's hilarious. Alright my homies, you know what time it is. And if you don't know what time it is, now you know. Let's go. I'm not going to lie, I've got a roach here. I've already smoked pretty much all of the blunt. I beat you to it on this one, guys. Alright, if you waited to smoke with me, amen. If you've been smoking this whole time, double amen. If you're not a smoker but you enjoyed the smoke breaks, that's a triple amen, gang. Let's go. Man, how many times have I said that on this channel? It's getting up there at this point. I've said that a lot of times. You know, you gotta put that on my gravestone. Somebody's gotta put that on my gravestone, yeah? Triple amen. Amen, gang. Let's go. Guys, can I just say, last week, we all sparked the blunt for Michael Johnson. Right, we all brought that energy for MJ, and you see what he done, right? Alan Patrick, that's Alan Patrick now. We brought that energy for Michael Johnson. He gets the win. You love to see that. Guys, if I had to pick a fighter on this card that we would have to spark the blunt for to try to get that win, if I had to pick one fighter, I'm going Chase Hooper. I think if we all spark the blunt, Chase Hooper gets the sub. Alright my homies, if you want all of my bets on this UFC card, the only way to do that is on the Patreon. This UFC card's kind of difficult to bet on, but yeah, we should find some winning bets on this card. Alright, let's break down this main card. Let's go. Alright, moving into a matchup between Eryk Anders taking on Yong Park. Now this is a difficult prediction to make. I've seen every fight of Yong Park. I've seen every fight of Eryk Anders, and still it's a difficult prediction to make. I remember Eryk Anders, you know, getting pushed hard in the UFC early, you know, getting a main event against Lyoto Machida, getting a main event against Thiago Santos. You know, early on, I think we was looking at Eryk Anders as like a guy who could knock you out. But I would have to say that Eryk Anders hasn't improved the way I thought he would in the UFC. For example, one of the main weaknesses of Eryk Anders that I really don't like, he kind of has trouble cutting off the octagon. You know, if your opponent is moving to the left, you've got to step to the left. You can't follow to the left. I know it sounds like the same thing, but it's really not. You have to cut the space off inside the octagon, and Eryk Anders just kind of has trouble doing that. Now, Yong Park, this guy's pretty decent. He ragdolled John Phillips. He ragdolled Tafon and Njokuani. Man, he was pretty close to beating Gregory Rodriguez, but somehow Gregory finds a way. And I'm thankful he did because I took him in that matchup. I would say Yong Park is like a wrestler type boxer. You know, he does both. He likes to box, he likes to wrestle. Now, will that be enough against Eryk Anders in this fight in 2022? I think it will. Yeah, that's got to be my prediction. I think it's a tough matchup, but I'm slightly leaning towards Junyon Park. Alright, moving into a matchup between Polyana Viana taking on Tabatha Ricci. I do like me some Tabatha Ricci, I'm not gonna lie. Now guys, this is pretty much gonna be a pick and matchup again in my opinion. What evidence is there that Polyana Viana is gonna be like a really good pick in this fight? And what evidence is there that Tabatha Ricci is gonna be the much better pick? It's a pick and matchup. Now I'm probably not going to bet this fight guys, but if you wanted to bet this fight you would have to find like a slight edge in the matchup. You know, Polyana Viana and Tabatha Ricci are pretty much both jiu-jitsu fighters, and that's going to be why this one's a pick and matchup. But if you look at who has more experience and who's maybe the better striker, that's going to be Polyana Viana. So maybe the slight edge in this matchup is going to be Polyana, and I am going to make that prediction. Now if my prediction's wrong and Tabatha Ricci gets it done, I'm all for it. I think Tabatha Ricci's a good prospect in mixed martial arts. It's a pick and matchup in my opinion. I'm going to side with the girl who has more experience, and that's going to be Polyana Viana. Alright guys, moving into a matchup between Chidi Njokuani taking on Dusko Todorovic. Now in my opinion guys, I kind of feel like this matchup is like the easiest matchup to predict on this card. Obviously besides, you know, Spider Pig and Jailton Almeida, I think this is a pretty easy prediction to make. And the main reason why I think this is going to be an easy prediction, if you look at the striking defense of Dusko Todorovic, it's no bueno, you know, the guy can't move the head. The guy's head is like a magnet for punches. Then you look at Chidi Njokuani against Marc-Andre, the punch to the ear, you know, equilibrium, he just completely starched Marc-Andre Barrios, and that's the boxing of Chidi Njokuani. The guy's a really good kicker too. If we're looking at how Dusko Todorovic would win the fight, he probably has to take it to the mat. And if you look at both of the wins in the UFC against Daquan Townsend and against Maki Pitolo, both of these wins come on the mat. So it's pretty much striker versus grappler, even though Dusko will try to strike a little bit. My prediction has to be bang bang, Chidi Njokuani. I think he's a much better striker than Dusko Todorovic. Alright my homies, moving into the co-main event, we've got Santiago Ponzinibbio taking on Michel Pereira. This is a nasty South American matchup. And shout out to my boy Josh who says Argentinians cannot fight. However, if there ever was an Argentinian that could fight, it's gotta be Santiago Ponzinibbio. This guy is pretty nasty. Now the problem with the matchup is going to be Michel Pereira is also very nasty. If we're looking at who's got better boxing in this matchup, I would have to side with Santiago Ponzinibbio. If we're looking at who's a better kicker, you know, who's more unorthodox to throw the crazy techniques, it's going to be the crazy man, Michel Pereira. This guy loves a backflip. He's going to do the backflip at some point. Probably. I kind of feel quite confident that Michel Pereira is going to win the fight, and that kind of scares me. You know, Santiago Ponzinibbio is a veteran, the guy's got good boxing, he's super violent. But something's telling me that Michel Pereira is just going to obliterate Santiago with the kicks. Yeah, that's going to be my prediction on this one, guys. I'm going to side with Michel Pereira to use the kicks, to be explosive in this co-main event. Santiago Ponzinibbio's like the cleaner fighter, the cleaner striker, but I've got a feeling that the explosiveness of Michel Pereira might be the result in this fight, so that's gonna be my prediction. Alright my homies, main event. It's obviously not a great main event, but if you enjoy my content, smash the like button, smash the subscribe button. Let's break down the main event. Alright, so essentially what you've got here is Holm and Ketlen. Holm's a good boxer, she's a good kicker. She's not in the prime of her career. You know, she's not going to head kick the opponent the way she did against Ronda Rousey. We do have to acknowledge that Holm is 40 years old. Now, even at 40 years old, Holm is still going to put up a good fight. She is still going to use the movement. She's going to use the kicks. And she's not a bad grappler, you know. You see her grapple against Megan Anderson. You see her grapple a little bit against Raquel Pennington. Irene Aldana just had a really difficult time trying to keep up with the movement of Holm. Now on the flip side, you've got Ketlen Vieira, who is a pretty powerful puncher. I took Ketlen Vieira against Miesha Tate purely because, you know, Miesha had a lot of time off. She came back against Marion Renaud, who was like an easy matchup. Against Ketlen Vieira, I just felt Ketlen's striking had to be the result in that fight, and thankfully it was. There's two things I don't really like about Ketlen Vieira. Number one, the gas tank's not great. And the second thing is going to be, at times, she's a little bit inactive. You see against Misha Tate, you know, you've got to let the hands go a little bit more. My prediction in this matchup, guys, I think the story of the fight is going to be Holly Holm has too much experience, the movement's too good, the kicks are too good, the feints are too good. I know Ketlen Vieira's more in her prime, you know, she's a good puncher. She could beat Holly Holm, but skill for skill, I just think Holly Holm's a better fighter than Ketlen Vieira. So that's going to be my prediction. I'm going to take the preacher's daughter, Holly Holm, the former champion, to win this main event against a big Brazilian girl who's going to try to knock you out. And that's why you've got to utilise good movement in this matchup. I think she probably does. And looking at what the bookies have, they've got Holly Holm over -200, which is mad respect for the former champion. Alright, my homies, leave down your main event, your co-main event, your underdogs, straight plays, Money City plays. Leave all of that in the comment section below. And as always, my homies, keep your eyes to the sky, never glued to your shoes. Mac Miller. Alright, peace.